only 3 known populations in Scotland.
The water was boiling with them, there's that many.
It was beautiful, and there was a scent.
If you smell a wee fish, he smells cucumber and it tastes a bit cucumbery. They're funny.
It was incredible how alive the river came over those couple of days that the Sparling arrived for.
Fascinating little fish. They spend most of their life within the marine environment in the lower estuary, and they come in for only 4 or 5 days a year to spawn. They have a very distinct smell, violet, cucumber, there's various different descriptions of it. They come in a night tide in their tens of thousands and spawn over just a few days for literally a few hours each night when they come in. There's only 3 known populations in Scotland. Within this region, all the rivers used to have them. Only one has held on, not entirely sure why the Cree has survived while the others have died out, but from the point of view of trying to repopulate and bring them back across southwest Scotland, then we know we've got a population here that we know is adapted and we know can survive within the conditions we have around here, and that makes it perfect from the point of view of utilising it to try and return Sparling back to the other rivers. All fish behaviour is heavily influenced by water temperature. We record water temperatures from the 1st of February, and there's a model which was developed previously which starts to indicate when you're likely to see Sparling.
Every single day you've added up the temperatures, and once they add up to 100 or just over 100, then you start the next process of checking the rivers, looking at the trends in the tides moving and looking at the temperatures building. We were thinking that we had maybe 4 or 5 days to play with, and we went down for the predator check, and we found about 6 dead Sparling all on the bank, all predator kills. They were obviously there, and they were obviously there in good numbers as well.
It looks like we've got a number of Sparling, and they've been caught by predators. It looks like they've banked themselves as the tides drop down, and you can see all this area here is surrounded with eggs as well. So it looks like maybe over 100 Sparling in this area here, and these will just be resting as the tide drops, and they're finding areas of refuge.
We had some nice high tides, but the water temperature was too cold, so spawning was delayed. As soon as the water temperature of the river increased, then Sparling came and spawned.
This is the part of the project where we need to actually collect the Sparling. We need up to 200 fish. And when they're in the hatchery, we'll then have a data collection time.
With regard to processing the fish, what we do is we take a length from the end of the nose to the tip of the tail, we weigh the fish, we look at whether they're male or female, we take a scale sample off them to allow us to age them. After that, the fish are put back in the tank and are returned back to the river.
Looking at the fish scales, you can understand how old a fish is. If an entire year is missing, you can then go back and see if there was factors that influenced that population within that time period, and if you can pinpoint what it was, it helps us better manage the Sparling.
We are looking at the size of these fish, because the size of the fish is closely related to how many eggs that fish can produce. So if fish start to get smaller, then that would reduce the amount of eggs and could potentially long-term wipe out the overall population. From the lengths and the weights of these fish, we're also able to collect something called condition factor, and that tells us how well they're growing, how well they're putting on weight. All this information together gives us an idea of the overall health of the population. An important part of the Sparling project has been education. We have been involved with primary schools. Project officer has been along to talk about Sparling, to explain and to actually take live Sparling into the school as well. This is so that the kids will understand more about Sparling, about why they're so lucky to have Sparling within the River Cree, and what sort of activities people need to consider when protecting Sparling into the future, and just basically generate an interest in their surroundings.
Yeah, these ones here, these ones. They are the future generations, the future conservationists, the people who will need to carry on the work or even further the work. And it was nice to see a positive reaction from them. It's strange, isn't it? The public engagement side of this project is another big element of it. It's essential just to get a general understanding within the local community, to raise awareness about these, and to also gain their knowledge. Trying to learn about Sparling through their experiences is a huge element of it, and a very, very useful resource for us. It could tell us of a second spawning ground, or in a different river that someone has caught Sparling at a certain period, or seen a large group of Sparling.
Well, the water had to be right. If it was a big flood, they never came up, or up as far, so you would probably go down and think, oh, they never came this year. But they would be there. They used to go up a burn at Creighton, the Spittle burn. When the water was right, the conditions were right, they would come up to what we called the pipe pool, and we would wait there until the tide came up. I can remember catching a ton, 2 men unable to pull the net into the bank because there's that many sparling in them.
Just after the Second World War, we used to go down and guddle for them. We took our shoes and socks off, and we pretend up to the knees, and we just fished the Sparling out onto the bank, put them in a bucket and took them home and gave them to the locals. You could smell them, you know, the river smell of cucumbers. There's that many, and when you waded in or paddled in, they're hitting your legs. They're that thick. I've never seen anything else like it since then.
We lived in Carweasel Avenue, just up the road, and Alice came up from the shop in Queen Street, and he said, right, get a bucket, children, we're going down to catch our tea. There was fish right across from one side of the river to the other, and I suppose, well, Alistair would got them, and I just fried them for the tea. They tasted quite nice, and that would be 1980.
Many years ago, I was involved in a project about the Sparling. The springtime was when the fish come in, and they said to me, the Galloway fisher folk said, we'll give you a phone as soon as they come in, because it'll be very sudden. So I got a phone call and dashed down to the river, and it was just wonderful. It seems to be, you know, a part of history, a part of the local mythology, that I think it's good that this is happening, that there's a wee bit of interest.
It's like everything else. It's like Aldi. They advertise it. Once they're gone, they're gone. They don't come back.
They're part of the Cree. They should be there. Hopefully they'll keep coming back. Hopefully.
Spring Cree. Galloway greens again, the river silvered with white eggs. Sharp scent of cucumber. Sweet vernal grass, vanilla's air. Hope buds like catkins.